What's up, guys? Back with Brian at Fandom at Random, the horror cut. That's what I'm calling this from now on because my normal podcast is like fandom in general. This one's all about horror, and we have Mike the Movie Misfit on today. What's going on, Mike?
Oh, not much. Just hanging out in my dirty old bedroom. How are you?
I'm good. It's Sunday, so I'm not complaining, but I do got to go back to work tomorrow. So,
Yeah, I hear you. I got to go back to school early in the morning.
oh boy. I figured we ask you on because I've been trying to get people I've seen on TikTok, smaller creators, try to build a little community here, and your content's great. You do like trivia and stuff. Actually, while we're at it, go ahead, plug your socials, your websites, anything you want for right now.
Oh, cool. Thank you. I appreciate it. So it's Mike the Movie Misfit. That's the name for all my platforms. So it's Mike the Movie Misfit at TikTok, Mike the Movie Misfit at Instagram, and same with my YouTube channel.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna put everything in the links down below anyway, so you guys can go and check it out. And basically just like me, Mike loves horror and does a lot of horror things. So what's your favorite scary movie? Because I gotta ask everybody.
Yeah, and that's all.
It's a tough one.
A tough one because I'm like, man, if I could only break it into subgenres. I mean,
right?
I mean, if I could honestly say right off the bat, I would say my favorite werewolf movie would have to be, American Werewolf in London. If I could break it into that,
good one. Yep.
Yeah. So as far as werewolf movies, I always just suggest that one because I'm like, if you might as well start high and then work your way down from there. But
all right.
Favorite horror, I would say probably. Maybe Halloween. I know that sounds kind of cliche, but probably Halloween.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's becoming less cliche because I think people don't want to say it as their favorite horror movie, but there's merit to it. It's Halloween. It's,
Right. And I always kind of look at it too, like, especially now as I've gotten older, I'm like, well, I like to think of it as like, these were young kids making a movie and, they had little to nothing and they managed to use it and, made it look like something that more than it was, I guess, as far as budget.
For sure.
So I kind of think of it that way. I'm like, oh, these, 5 or 10 people, made this great movie and they had nothing, so I try to look at it that way, especially now as I get older. I'm like, wow, cinematography, music score, everyone pitched in to do something and, they ultimately made a classic. So
hell yeah.
Kind of try to think of it more that way now.
It is a good way to think about it because obviously anybody with half the talent for horror can get a big budget and make a semi-decent movie, but very certain few, like John Carpenter, can take the budget he had, the crew he had, and make what he did.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
So there's definitely merit to having Halloween as your favorite horror.
Yeah, I've been kind of leaning towards stuff like that, as like I said, as I've been getting older, just because I'm like, especially when I think of movies like Jaws, I know that's not necessarily a low budget movie,
right?
However, but I'm like, when I think of things as far as the shark didn't work, maybe that was for a good reason, because it allowed Steven Spielberg to be creative, and he even said that he went to his Hitchcock, style. He's like, what? I had to use what you don't see is what's the scariest thing. And I was like, what? That's something that I feel like most people today probably wouldn't do.
No,
like, just get it on the computer, make something that looks bad.
Right? Yeah.
And I'm like,
falling back on technology. But I mean, even though they had the budget, all the troubles they had on set and working out in the real ocean and all that shit, it absolutely 100% added to the movie.
It's funny because even with that, I'm surprised no one's made a movie about that as far as like a horror, like mock history kind of a movie. Like, why hasn't anyone made a horror movie about like the story of making Jaws? Like, what if there was a real shark in the water, while they're doing all this stuff? And I'm like, I mean, it's not that bad.
That would take balls to do, I think. Because you're about to touch one of the probably few masterpieces in horror.
Right.
You'd have to be ready. You have to know what you have, and you got to go for it.
Yeah, exactly. I popped in my head the other day. I was like, that's probably something I would actually, if I ever got the pleasure to meet Steven Spielberg, because like a lot of those behind the scene photos, I mean, those are, you got guys, just crew members in the water, kind of like fixing cranes. And I'm like, did you guys ever think that there might be a shark in that ocean?
I know, right?
Just your there?
It's so, you know what the craziest thing is? I grew up about a half an hour outside of where they shot it,
Oh,
and
okay.
never went to visit there. I wasn't as big of a horror fan when I lived in Massachusetts, but now that I am, I have to make it down there at some point because
Oh, right. That's cool.
it's still like an hour drive from me, so it's not
Okay.
that bad, you know.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I'm in Pasadena, and I'm literally like a few blocks from the Halloween location. So,
Oh wow.
so that's kind of fun to just kind of like walk through. I see it all the time, so I'm like,
Yeah.
in a way, desensitized to it. But I'm always like, oh, because I get to see a lot of people, taking pictures in front of the Myers house and everything. And I always, my inner geek is always like,
Yeah.
hey, if you guys just go down the corner, you could just go where Ben Tramer got hit by the car too.
Yeah, right.
Like,
You have all this knowledge, and you're like, well,
I'm
if you
like,
go this
hey.
way and that way.
Yeah, I almost need like a microphone and be like a tour guide at Universal or something.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, we're talking horror, but the topic for today, I thought this would be a cool one. Each of us are going to pick 3 movies from any streaming service to give the viewers recommendations. Maybe they haven't seen them, maybe they have and want to know where they can watch it. But yeah, so top horror movies to stream right now.
Okay.
And we're going to start with you and your number 3.
Ooh, my number 3.
Yeah, let's go 3, 2, 1.
Okay. Let's see. What was my third one again? Let's see. That was on. Oh, so mine was on HBO Max. The only thing with this one was HBO Max. I'm not sure if you noticed, like HBO Max and other streaming services, sometimes they'll have movies on there for a long time and then they take them off.
Yes.
And that kind of messes me up because I'm always like recommending movies to people and they'll be like, "Where is it?" I'm like, "Oh, it's been there for a year now. It's gone."
I know,
so,
right?
HBO Max has a lot. It has a lot of random movies too, but the one I'm picking is relatively new.
Okay.
Because all the random ones that I was going to suggest are not there anymore. So the one I'm going to pick from HBO Max, it came out, I believe, in 2020. It was with it was like a remake of Freaky Friday, but like the horror movie version of it.
With Vince Vaughn and
Yeah, good old
Newton.
Vince Vaughn, yeah. And I remember seeing the trailer for this, and I was like, I don't know,
Yeah,
man. I was like, this could go really well, but then I hadn't seen Happy Death Day. I'll be honest, I didn't want to see it when I saw the trailer to it. So when I kind of binge watched a lot of movies during quarantine, I was like, okay, these actually aren't that bad. They're stupid. They're fun. They know that they're stupid and fun.
Right.
And I feel like when the movie's in on the joke, it kind of works. So when I started watching Freaky, I was like, you know what? This movie isn't bad, and in fact, it has Vince Vaughn in this movie. I've seen him in other films. I don't know if you've ever seen Clay Pigeons.
No, I can't say I have. Yeah,
that's a good movie to recommend. It's a young Vince Vaughn, a young Joaquin Phoenix. Vince Vaughn plays like a serial killer in that movie, and I was like, whoa, he plays a really good bad guy. So later on, he ended up doing more comedic roles. Yeah. And when I worked at Blockbuster, I was like, hey man, if you want to see a good Vince Vaughn movie, go watch Clay Pigeons. I'm like, he's really good. So yeah. I hadn't seen him play a role like this in a long time. So when I was like, hey, Vince Vaughn is another horror movie or in a horror movie, I was like, he's really good in that kind of a role. So when I was watching the movie, I was like, this is actually pretty cool because it was like he's kind of playing Jason Voorhees in a way.
Right, yeah.
He's I think he's 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah, man, he's a tall dude.
Yeah, he's a very tall dude. And I was like, he's playing this really, really well. And it kind of, starts off pretty quick. It goes into the whole, just serial killer stalking, group of kids. And then it kind of goes into the switcheroo into the film. So he basically switches his body or his soul or his conscious into I'm assuming 16, 17-year-old girl.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. And it, explaining that to people, they were kind of like, huh? It's
really, a theme that you wouldn't think works. And I don't think if they didn't have Vince Vaughn and Catherine Newton, who I got to say, she's in the Order, the Society, she's in Paranormal Activity. Those two together, I think are the only two that probably could have made that movie work. And
yeah, exactly. Because I mean, even the side characters in the movie did a relatively good job too. Like, you know, the two friends, and I was like, you know what, this is actually working. And the fact that it's taking it seriously, but not too seriously at the same time. And I was like, everyone's looking like they're having a really good time, like, you know, while making this movie.
Yeah.
And even when he, you know, when the 16-year-old girl is, you know, Vince Vaughn, and she's kind of like going on her own killing spree, I was like, you know what, she's doing a great job too. I was
Yeah,
like, you know,
she gets
she's really
creepy.
selling the character. You know, she's portraying, you know, what it would be like for a guy to be inside of, you know, a young teenager's body. And he was, you know, she did
Yep.
such a good job at that. And even the gore factor and the, you know, and the effects were really good. Even the musical tone. So I was like, you know, this is actually a really good movie. So I think when I rented it, it wasn't available everywhere yet, because I think I just rented the hard copy on DVD from Netflix.
Yeah.
I still do that.
Oh, okay.
So as soon as I watched it, I was like, oh, I gotta review it, blah 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 blah. So I watched it and I, you know, I gave it high praise and everything. But I think it didn't come out like everywhere until maybe like a few weeks or maybe a month after. I think.
Yeah, this day and age, it's usually one platform and then a little while later. But yeah, I mean, overall, I know exactly why you picked that movie, and I didn't know it was on HBO Max, so that's good to know.
Yeah,
And
and I don't know how long ago it came out, but it just came on recently, and I was like, oh, I was like, this was actually a really fun movie, and
yeah,
I like seeing Vince Vaughn in that character just because, in a way, I guess I grew up with him, knowing him as like a potentially good bad guy, just because, you know, the movie Clay Pigeons, and then he did the Psycho remake also,
right.
and so I think after that, I always thought of him as that kind of a actor. So, but you know, he eventually became a comedic actor, more known for that. So I was kind
Yeah,
of like, oh,
and he
but
came back and he rocked it.
yeah. And I was like, you know, this actually showed both sides of, you know, what he's been doing, you know, the whole psychotic person part and also like his comedic performance as well, too, because he played a good 16-year-old girl.
Yeah, right. The joke, the humor, and he is creepy when he isn't himself as a serial
Right.
killer. So I'd honestly say this is perfect for horror veterans and
Mm-hmm.
newbies, because if you're new to horror, you want to start off with something light, but it has gore and, like,
Right.
you know, scares. This is good. But if you're a veteran, then you can get all the little Easter eggs and the little you know, hints at the horror community
Right.
in the
Exactly.
movie. So
Yeah.
it's a good one.
Yeah, it
Um,
definitely, you know, it scratches that silly side, and also definitely like that slasher, you know, Friday the 13th kind of vibe too. So I was like, okay, it kind of scratches both itches
yeah,
with that.
exactly. All right. Well, Freaky on HBO Max, number 3 from Mike the Misfit over here. Now, for me, this was actually a tough list because there's a lot of good
Yeah.
shit streaming, but I had to go with Haunt
Oh,
on.
okay.
It's on AMC or Shudder because it's a
Hmm.
Shudder original.
Hmm.
Have you ever seen it?
No, but I've seen the actual the
Poster.
click thing for it, the cover for it.
Oh yeah, yeah. So it stars Katie Stevenson and or Stevens, something like that, and it's about a bunch of kids who are here about an extreme horror house out in the middle of nowhere.
Hmm.
Sounds like your everyday cliche horror haunted house story,
Hmm.
but man, when they get there and the characters that are in the haunted house, I'm gonna try and stay away from spoilers when we're
Hmm.
talking about newish movies, but it gets really creepy. It's one of my favorite haunted house movies and
Oh,
definitely a staple for Halloween season period.
right.
And like I said, it's usually on Shudder, but if you're on Amazon Prime or you have
Hmm.
AMC streaming, it's on both of those, and I would highly recommend it.
That is, I'll definitely check that one out. I was thinking it was another one that's on there. I think it was the similar. But it's like a found footage movie. There's the
The
Hell
house is
House.
Hell House LLC.
Yeah, I think that might be
Yeah.
it.
That was actually going to take the place of Haunt. And then I was
Oh,
like, you know what? A lot of people know about that movie. Haunt,
okay,
maybe not. So I
nice.
picked that one instead. Hell House is amazing. I love found footage. I know a lot of horror fans don't, but I love it.
There are some good ones on there. I mean, there are some good ones being made. I mean, you just have to do it right and
Yeah.
not shake
Yeah.
the camera too much, you know.
Exactly, right? There's some gems out there for found footage,
Hmm.
but yeah, Haunt on AMC and Shudder. Check it out for sure. If you haven't seen it yet, I'd probably wait until Halloween because it's perfect Halloween movie.
Yeah.
All right. And then what's your number 2?
This one was tough because, like I was saying, I was, you know, how movies are on the platform for so long and then they get taken off. And
Yes.
unfortunately, the one I was going to pick was not on there
Oh
anymore.
man.
So I went with the one that I just watched recently. And it's another dumb movie. I'm saying dumb because it's dumb fun. And
Yeah.
luckily, the creators had a good time with it, but it's called Dead Ant.
Yeah, so when I heard your list, I'm curious about this one because I haven't heard of it. I haven't watched it, so I need to know what it's all about.
Yeah, when I was scrolling through Amazon, because you know Amazon does generally have a good horror selection, whether it's the classics. Every so often they'll have, you know, all the Friday the 13th films, at least the Paramount ones on there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they'll take them off after so long, then they put them back on. So usually I'll scroll through there and just like, you know, look for something. And I saw the cover for Dead Ant, and I was like, you know what, this looks like a band flyer, like the way they wrote the logo of the band and everything. And I was like, is this a band? You know, is it a show? I was like, is
Yeah,
this a
right.
live concert or something? I was like, oh, okay.
Hmm.
And then I looked at it. I was like, you know, all right, I'll watch the trailer. And I was like, this looks stupid, but like in a good way. I mean, like stupid fun. And when I guess if I was to compare the trailer, I guess I would compare it to Piranha 3D. I don't know if you
Okay.
remember that.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, and I was like, okay, I was like, if it's anything like that, I was like, this could work. And then I saw the cast, and I was like, okay, Tom Arnold's in it.
Oh
Sean
wow.
Astin is in it, so it's got some people in it. Michael Horse from Twin Peaks is in it too, and I was like, okay, it's got people. I was like, you know what, screw it, I'll watch it, and I checked it out. So it's basically about a struggling hair band or glam band, you know, that are old now, and they're trying to like grab that, you know, hang on to that last, you know, bit of hope, you know, making it big.
Yeah.
And they're trying to head to like a Coachella type place, and it's across the desert. And as they're going across the desert, they encounter, I won't give too much away, but I mean, as they go across this desert and make camp before they get to their location, they start getting invaded by these, you know, swarm of ants. Some are regular size and some are giant.
Yeah.
And it's stupid, but it's actually kind of fun because it's like stupid silly. And Tom
Yeah.
Arnold actually carries the movie pretty well because he's like, you know, the humor of the movie. And
Absolutely. Yeah, Tom
but
Arnold's funny. Mm.
yeah, so it's I mean, I could see some people not liking it, but it's like I said, if you just go with it as far as watching it being like, hey, this is gonna be a stupid good time, I'm gonna turn my brain off.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna see some stupid effects, but and then, you know, it's fun to watch, like, you know, it kind of made me depressed too, because I was like, man, rock music is, you know,
Yeah.
no one knows about it anymore. I feel
I
like,
know, right?
so,
It is depressing. You know what?
yeah, so
From what you're describing on it, it kind of brings up Eight-Legged Freaks with
yeah,
David Arquette.
yeah.
And I love that movie. And if
Right.
you're a horror fan and you like that dumb stuff that can be fun, it sounds
Right.
like it's something that could be a good time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I just yeah, exactly. That's a good one to mention. Yeah, Eight-Legged Freaks, or yeah, like I said, Piranha 3D. Like it's in that, you know, in that realm right there. So
Awesome.
definitely check it out if you just want to turn your brain off and just not think about anything.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to look at that one. This one I got on my number 2 is the complete opposite. It is serious, dark, depressing, and yeah, it's Hush.
Oh
And yeah, it's available on Netflix. Have you seen this one?
yeah, I did actually, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, this was a surprise because first of all, I watched it before Haunting of Hill House came
Oh
out.
right, yeah, me too.
And Katie Seagal, I forget how you say her name.
Mm-hmm.
She plays a deaf woman who is isolated in a cabin
Mm-hmm.
and is being stalked by a masked killer. But based on that description, you'd think it would be a stereotypical slasher. And
Right.
it's the furthest thing from that because she's actually one of my favorite final girls because of this movie. Definitely top 5 at least.
Right.
It's just interesting because she's alone. She can't hear anything.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who played John Gallagher, who played the killer,
Right.
it was he played amazing, and it was creepy, and a lot of things happened that you didn't think would happen. And by the end, you're rooting for people. It's emotional, it's crazy. And like I said, I don't want to spoil newer movies, but This one's been available on Netflix for a while, so it's still there. I just checked. It's
Oh.
definitely if you're into slashers, if you're into final girls, if you're into women overcoming obstacles and beating the villain in the end, absolutely.
Yeah, that is a good one. Now, I could be wrong. I remember a rumor like years ago before we got the new Halloween movies that Mike Flanagan was going to possibly direct one.
Yes. I remember hearing that at one point.
Yeah, I think after Hush, I remember hearing like, oh, this guy might be the one to direct the next, sequel or whatever.
I mean, if we're being honest, I don't know how you feel about Halloween Kills, but I think they probably would have made a better choice with Mike Flanagan.
Yeah, I mean, I walked into that movie because I was just like, well, as long as Michael's killing people. And when I saw the trailer, I was like, okay, so Michael's John Wick in this movie. I was like, all right.
Yep. It's so normally I wouldn't say it about Halloween, maybe some of the sequels, but it's one of those turn your brain off, go in and just enjoy what Michael Myers is there for,
Because I had a feeling it was going to be this way because I had just read an interview prior to it coming out where the director was saying like, this is a 3-part story. So everything, is laid out in the first movie, and the second one is just the carnage, and the third one's going to be the final act where everything comes out. So I kind of went into the movie going like, all right, that works for me then, since I felt like, I knew that was the idea going in. So I was relatively happy, and for the most part, I was really enjoying it. But I kept thinking, I was like, if someone wanted to do a drinking game to this movie, it was like, every time someone says evil dice tonight, someone can take a shot.
Oh, that dialogue, man, is what really killed me for it. But I get what they were going for, but they overused it so much.
Yeah.
And
that I'll definitely agree on that for sure.
Yeah, so the story and the dialogue didn't really hype it up for me, but the kills alone were fucking insane, and I couldn't be more happy with how Michael was just the ultimate killer in it.
Right, he was Jaws on the loose.
Right, but all right, we're getting kind of sidetracked on Halloween. That's no, it's that's a discussion for a different day because I can make a 2-hour video about Halloween. All right, so I did my number 2. Now we're at your number 1.
Okay, so my number 1 would be Summer of '84.
Man, I've been trying to check this movie out and I haven't got to it yet.
Okay, yeah. So I had heard about this movie just through social media, and this was right before I started, doing the movie platforms. And so I started the platform, and then I just happened to get Shudder because I was like, I know nothing about the Shudder channel other than it has old movies, I thought. I didn't realize they had original content. And sure enough, this movie was on there. And I was like, I got to check this out. I was like, the cover looks cool.
Yeah.
So that I was sold on that. And so I watched it, and it was just not what I expected it to be. It's about, kids growing up in the neighborhood I won't give anything away, but kids growing up in the neighborhood in the early 80s, 84, and kids are starting to disappear. And this core group of friends start trying to figure out like if they could solve the case on their own.
Nice.
And they kind of give away who the killer is, initially in the first half of the movie, but you're still not 100% sure. So these kids kind of like, go on their own trying to figure out if it is who it is. And then, all the ramifications that go along with it. And, it's a well done movie because it's done seriously.
Yeah.
And it's, what I really enjoyed about it was, a lot of movies now will, if it's taking place in the 80s or the 90s, they'll nostalgia you to death.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, I grew up in a lot of these times that they're kind of, talking about now. And I'm like, you guys are making it more 90s than it was back then, or more 80s than it was.
Right. So, I mean, there any chance to throw in any reference.
Right. Yeah. It's like overly done. And what I liked about this one, it was very subtle. They actually didn't do it. It was, there wasn't songs playing every 2 seconds. It wasn't like super neon. Yeah. It was done relatively, very well. Cool. And it's a very, there's no real monster or anything except the person that it is, but it's done very, very well. And whenever everyone asks me about what to watch on Shudder, I'm like, watch that one first. I'm like, that's a good one. I'm like,
I've watched trailers and kind of read some non-spoiler reviews
Oh,
about it.
okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It definitely has a feel from like Stephen King / Stranger Things with
Right. Yeah.
kids on bikes trying to figure out the crime or the killer themselves,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. It definitely has that Goonies meets Stand By Me kind of vibe.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, yeah, I even tell people too, like, you know, because like I'll have to say, you know, if you like Stranger Things, but I'm like, well, this is like the serious version of Stranger Things if there ever could be one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and it's done really, really well. Like I said, yeah, the kids that are in the movie, they do a pretty, you know, they do a really good acting job too, and even the villain in the movie, you're just like, damn, that's like, you know, real people are monsters.
Yeah.
So you're
I
like,
really got to lock it down and put it on and just watch it because I've played it a couple times and then got distracted, walked away, but
right.
I just have to put. Sorry, my dog is
Oh,
just
no
being
problem.
an asshole right now, huh, Ripley? Go away. All right, so that was on Shudder, right?
Yes, that's available on Shudder.
All right. And speaking of like humans are the real monsters, let me just throw this out there. I'm not going to go into the movie,
Okay.
but I just want to put it out there because I just saw it on Netflix today.
Mm.
The Girl Next Door is by far one of the most messed up movies I've ever seen. Go into it. Anyone who's watching, go into it without any expectations. Just watch it and you'll love it. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there. But awesome. All right, Summer of '84 on Shudder. You're number one. With me, it's not only my number one horror movie, but it's actually streaming for free right now on Amazon. So I had to pick it, and I'm going with Pumpkinhead.
Ooh, it's on Amazon right now?
It is. It's on Amazon Prime for free, and I think it was on Tubi, which, by the way, if you don't have Tubi, I'd have to say out of all the services, they probably have the best horror catalog most of the time. So, but
yeah,
right,
in fact, I just got on there recently too.
it's free. I mean, there's you watch some ads, but that's it. But yeah, Pumpkinhead's my number one horror movie of all time. A little bit of nostalgia, but also because it's one of the best creature features I've ever
definitely
seen. And it's a little different because you have the father-son dynamic rather than just like a bunch of kids go to a cabin and get killed.
Right.
You know, and not only that, I always forget his name, but Lance Henriksen just does amazing in this. And Pumpkinhead is, I can't say my favorite creature design because we have Alien and Predator, but he's definitely top 3, top 5 for me. And it scared the shit out of me when I was a kid.
I mean, that's a good one. I remember renting it VHS and then watching it with my mom.
Yep.
Oh man, that movie still makes me cry every time.
I know. And it's so funny because my buddy, when I was like 7, 8 years old, his parents owned a video store, and they'd always have a cart in their house with movies that haven't come out yet, or they were just getting in. That one was there. We watched it, pissed our pants, and it's been my favorite ever since. But I always tell people, if you haven't seen it or if you're new to horror, I think it still holds up to this day.
Yeah, I definitely do too.
Because it was 1988, actually the year I was born. So and it still holds up. Pumpkinhead is scary as all hell. The acting is a little meh, but
I mean, I get Lance Henriksen is the one that sells it the most for sure.
Yeah, really. And luckily he's a lot of the movie, and then some of the kids are likable, and I feel like they don't make stupid decisions, you know?
Right, yeah.
Which can really ruin a horror movie for me. So this one's great. I always point it out. Amazon Prime, it's free. It's probably on Tubi still too. So you got a couple places to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I love that movie too. It's such a good one.
Yeah, but
it's funny too. Someone had done a post about movies that make you cry, and someone had put that one too. And I was like, "Yep,
yeah,
that movie always made me cry."
Right? Any horror movie that can put a little emotion into it and make me have a little man tear, I'm all about it.
Me too.
So this is embarrassing, but Tusk by Kevin Smith. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah.
That one at the end made me tear up a little bit. I know it's weird, but something about Justin Long as a spoilers walrus and kind of giving in to the walrus.
Right.
Damn, dude, that's depressing.
You know,
So yeah, all right. Those are 6 movies altogether you guys can stream right now. Do you have any other honorable mentions? Without going into the movies, we can just list off a couple.
Yeah, I do. This one is another. It's a classic. This one would be on Amazon, and it's still there right now. It's
Okay.
an '80s movie. It's very corny, but it features a young Jim Carrey.
Really?
It's a vampire film. It's called Once Bitten.
Yep, Once Bitten. I know what you're
It's
talking about.
definitely very '80s. It has that '80s feel to it, so it's very corny and very cheesy. It probably wouldn't, you know. It's probably not politically correct now. I'm sure there's a lot of things that are wrong
Yeah,
on there.
like a lot of 80s movies, but
Yeah, but I
if
mean,
you're
this one
if you're
is
not
actually
sensitive, it's
cheesy
good. Yeah.
fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, and like I said, it features a young Jim Carrey being seduced by an elder vampire woman. So that's definitely one of my favorites.
Hell yeah.
Also, I would say if you have Shudder, if you want to watch a good revenge film, it's called Revenge.
Oh,
It's
yeah. I've
yeah.
watched half of it. I haven't watched the ending yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's it's shot really, really well. And I mean, if you're into revenge films, I mean, I always say go watch that for people that are
Yes.
into those films.
It's like people like to go to I Spit on Your Grave for revenge films,
right.
which is fair.
Yeah.
It's fair, but that's more like an exploitation movie, whereas
Yeah.
Revenge felt like an elevated I Spit on Your Grave.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Even in that one, I was like, yeah, I was kind of like, you're rooting for her. I was like,
Yeah.
at the edge of
Yep.
my seat going, yeah. But if you're into the classic zombie movies, Zombie is on Shudder as well, and that's probably one of my favorite zombie movies. It's a Fulci, Lucio Fulci film.
Yep.
If you have not seen it, I would definitely say check it out. It's got a haunting score, and it's a very well done zombie movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet. I've heard a ton about it, but it's definitely on my to be watched list.
Yeah,
So.
it's a good one. That one I was introduced at a young age. Someone had just said, "Oh, they had mentioned George Romero," and I was like, "Okay, I'm like a little kid writing all these things down," and they're like, "You have to watch this movie called Zombie," and I was like, "Okay." And so that was the first zombie film I really saw, other than Michael Jackson's Thriller. So
Yeah.
when I saw it, I was like, actually really scared. I think the score alone is what freaked me out, and then something about zombies walking around with their eyes closed, just really scary. It looks more scary, I think, than anything. So I would definitely check it out.
Yep.
When you watch it, try to keep your eyes open when you see. Notice that no one runs out of bullets in this movie.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is actually something I noticed late, and I was like, hey, no one's running out of bullets, no one's reloading. I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's common for movies. But
Yeah.
speaking of zombie movies, so I'm going to mention 2 from Tubi because
cool.
I can't promote Tubi enough. No, I'm not sponsored by them. I just think that for a free service, and for a horror fan, you can't beat it. The Return of the Living Dead is probably my number 1, number 2 horror movie.
That's a good one.
They just posted it on Tubi, so it's available. Even if you don't like corny zombie movies, you will appreciate the scene with Trash is her name. So yeah, and Linnea Quigley plays that part, the beautiful Linnea Quigley.
Yep.
And then the other one on Tubi is Valentine, a very underrated slasher that came out in the height of the 90s where everyone was trying to make another Scream movie.
Right. Yep.
We had Urban Legend. I Know What You Did Last Summer, but Valentine kind of went under the radar. And these days, going back to watch it, it's new, it's fresh, and I think it deserves a watch. So
yeah, definitely.
But there you go. So now, if you guys are watching and you like horror, you got a lot of good shit from this to watch now. And hopefully you have all the streaming services to watch it. But yeah, so while we're at it, do you have anything big coming up that you want to mention? Any podcasts, new videos coming up, anything like that?
Well, no, nothing too new. I mean, every Monday I do it both on my on TikTok. I do movie hero, like underrated movie hero games where I say, I pick, not the Schwarzeneggers, not the Bruce Will, not those characters, but like the minor characters. I usually just do like, I'll pick one person or two people, and I'll be like, hey, remember this person from such and such? I've done Peter from Dawn of the Dead. I mean, I've even done Ali from Friday the 13th Part 3. I'm like, even though he's kind of a bad guy, he came out at the end of the movie to kick some ass, but he died.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, that's what I like about your channel, man, is like you do some of the more obscure shit that everyone covers all the same shit. Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, when you go obscure and you actually talk about some like things like that, that's the interesting part,
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, usually I do those kind of things simultaneously, because when I go on my Instagram page for the same kind of topic, on my stories, I actually have like 17 questions that I do, or I'm like, trivia questions. That's on Monday. Tuesdays, I'm just normally reviewing a new movie. Cool. Wednesdays, I do Werewolf Wednesday on both platforms, TikTok and Instagram, and usually on Werewolf Wednesdays on my Instagram, it's like 17 questions in my actual stories. But I am introducing a new segment I just started last week, Thirsty Thursdays, which is going to be devoted to vampires. So I'll be talking more about vampire movies, and then probably do some trivia questions. Fridays are always Final Girl Friday, where I just pick random Final Girls and just give them a shout out. And then same thing with my Instagram. It's just trivia questions on the subject on my stories. Nice. I'm probably going to introduce Flesh Eater Fridays, which will be all dedicated to zombie movies. So that's something I'll probably be doing soon. And Saturdays are always Shudder Saturday, where I just do a review on a Shudder original film.
Wow. I mean, damn, dude, you put me to shame. I know I have some health problems, so I can't post all the time, but I try as much. But you put in the effort. There is no doubt about that.
Oh, thanks. I try, man. I mean, it's just I have to do it either the night before, post all my questions on my Instagram, at least 8, to get people through the day, because I know people live in different time zones too. So, and then I go to my job training during the day. So when I get a free minute, I'm like, okay, I'll post another 5 questions just to keep people busy. So,
well,
and especially
I know your fans probably appreciate it, and I love watching your shit, so I'll be looking out for it. But
thank you.
Yeah, again, I'll post everything in the YouTube link, but for right now, it's at Mikethemoviemisfit on pretty much every social, right? Cool. Well, I mean, it's been a good conversation with you, man, and hopefully we can have you on again to talk about something else.
Yeah, thank you. I had fun.
Yeah, it was a good time. And as always, fandomatrandom.com, you can go in, check out merch, listen to any old episodes. But if you like this video, like, subscribe, leave in the comments what you love that's streaming right now. Do whatever you want. Anyway, come back. Thanks again, Mike.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right.